10 Star Wars characters whose stories are radically different in canon and legends. The Star Wars franchise has two major continuities, canon and legends, leading to notable differences between characters existing in both. From 1976 to 2014, stories told outside the Star Wars movies collectively made up the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now known as Legends. The EU was rebranded and declared non-canon when Disney and Lucasfilm created a new official canon, giving filmmakers more creative freedom. The only stories that carried over into the new canon were the Star Wars original trilogy, the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and the Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series and film. Having the same basic foundation meant many of the same characters could appear in both timelines, but in some cases, new writers have chosen to alter a character's history significantly. This offers a fascinating chance to compare how different storytellers approach the same character, best known as the Ewok who helped Princess Leia and the Rebels in Return of the Jedi. Wicket is different in canon and legends because of the Ewok spin-offs he appeared in. The animated series Star Wars, Ewoks had Wicket and the other characters speaking English for the audience's benefit while fleshing out the forest moon of Endor. The live-action Ewok movies also revealed that Wicket met another human family before Return of the Jedi. Most significantly, Wicket eventually married his childhood friend Nisa in Legends, and the two ruled their village together. Although Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker featured a cameo from Wicket and his son, Pommet Warwick, it has not been confirmed if Wicket also became a chief in canon. Wicket's various canon appearances in books and comics have stayed closer to his original on-screen portrayal. Kitster Benai first appeared in Star Wars, Episode I, The Phantom Menace as a young slave who was best friends with Anakin Skywalker. In legend, Kitster earned enough credits to buy his own freedom after Anakin left to become a Jedi. Kitster was framed for crimes and harassed on many occasions for his attempts to help slaves gain rights and freedom. Kitster eventually started a family and even met Leia Organa, helping her learn more about her father's childhood. Star Wars canon has given Kitster a different story so far, having him and his fellow slaves freed by Sabe, one of Padme Amidala's handmaidens. He and the former slaves lived on Gabrador III, but when the planet was suffering under an imperial governor working for Crimson Dawn, Sabe, and the others were forced to work with Darth Vader. Kitster had no idea the Sith Lord was once his best friend, but Vader's actions earned his respect. A member of the same mysterious species as Yoda, Yaddle had many unique qualities that distinguished her in Legends. A mission gone wrong led to Yaddle's imprisonment for over 100 years, and when she finally escaped, she remained on Koba to help its people rebuild. Because of how much she had grown, the Jedi Council decided to promote Yaddle from Padawan straight to Jedi Master. Yaddle eventually sacrificed herself to save the people of Mawan from a bioweapon. Although Yaddle spoke in the same backward manner as Yoda in Legends, Star Wars canon changed this to have her speak with a normal sentence structure. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi moved Yaddle's death from 6 years after the Phantom Menace to during the events of the film, dying at Dooku's hands when she discovered his alliance with Darth Sidious. Yaddle also appears in the High Republic era, with no mention of her being imprisoned for a century. A former Imperial stormtrooper who survived a terrible accident, Bailert Valance's damaged body was replaced with droid parts. This caused him to have an irrational hatred of droids, and after leaving the Empire, he became a bounty hunter. Although he initially hunted the rebels, he had a change of heart after meeting Luke Skywalker, so Valance eventually sacrificed himself for the rebellion. Valance's story has been fleshed out more in canon after becoming a main character in the Marvel Comics series Star Wars, Bounty Hunters. His new backstory reveals that Valance knew Han Solo when they both attended the Imperial Academy, causing him to show Han respect when they reunited during the Galactic Civil War. Valance's hatred of droids isn't as severe as in Legends, and Darth Vader forces him to rejoin the Empire. Created by Timothy Zahn for the Thrawn trilogy, Rook faithfully served as the bodyguard for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Rook could sneak up on anyone and often practiced on other Imperials, but his violence was usually reserved for when Thrawn needed someone to be executed. When the Nogri people learned that the Empire had deceived them, Rook betrayed Thrawn and stabbed him in the chest before being killed himself, on top of receiving an entirely new design. Rook's canon story, was moved to earlier in the timeline. Although he still served as Thrawn's bodyguard, Rook took a more active role in hunting the Grand Admiral's enemies, leading him to face the Ghost Crew in Star Wars Rebels Season 4. Unlike his Legends counterpart, Rook never turned on Thrawn and was killed by Zeb Aurelios during the Battle of Lothal Point. One of George Lucas' rules for the original expanded universe was that Han, Luke, and Leia could not be killed off, but this didn't apply to Chewbacca. He became the first major original trilogy hero to die in Star Wars, The New Jedi Order, Vector Prime, when Chewie was crushed by a moon knocked out of orbit by the Yuuzhan Vong. As tragic as Chewie's death was, he saved Han's son, Anakin Solo, and remained defiant until the end. While Chewie may have been the first to die in Legends, the opposite ended up being true in canon. The sequel trilogy killed off Han, Luke, and Leia in each respective film, leaving Chewie to mourn his friends and fight to make sure the Resistance won. With Rey's upcoming Star Wars film set to kick off the new Jedi Order era in canon, Chewie can forge a new chapter of his life that he never had in Legends. Boba Fett may not have had much screen time in the original trilogy, but the books and comic set after Return of the Jedi greatly expanded his story. After escaping from the Sarlacc pit, Boba returned to bounty hunting and had more encounters with Han Solo and the other rebels. However, Boba eventually became the leader of the Mandalorian Protectors and helped the New Republic during the Yuuzhan Vong War. While Boba still escaped the Sarlacc pit in canon, his story took a different turn when he was taken in by a tribe of Tusken Raiders. They taught Boba honor and the importance of having a tribe, and after they were killed, Boba chose to reclaim his Mandalorian armor and become the new daimyo of Tatooine. Both timelines show Boba becoming a leader, but canon puts more emphasis on how he has changed as a man. Depa Billaba appeared in the prequel trilogy as a Jedi Council member with no speaking lines, but she was a much more prominent character in the expanded universe. She was rescued by Mace Windu as an infant and raised as his Padawan, fighting alongside him and her fellow Jedi on many crucial missions. Unfortunately, the horrors of the Clone Wars turned Depa to the dark side, and a final duel with her old master left her in a coma. In canon, Depa never turned to the dark side and took her own Padawan, Caleb Dume. However, her story still ended in tragedy when her clone troopers turned on her during Order 66, sacrificing herself to save Caleb as she ordered him to run. Caleb went into hiding and changed his name to Canon Jarrus, and while his master's death haunted him for years, he would eventually train Ezra Bridger in Star Wars Rebels. Luke told his sister that she would learn to use the Force as he had, and that's just what Leia did in the Legends timeline. Although her commitment to politics took time away from training, Leia eventually became one of the most skilled Jedi in Luke's new Jedi Order. She and Han also had 3 children, the twins, Jaina and Jacen Solo, followed by Anakin Solo, all of whom became powerful Jedi Knights. Leia did train with Luke in canon, but after sensing the death of her only son at the end of her Jedi path, she surrendered her lightsaber and committed her life to the New Republic. She was ousted from politics when the galaxy learned she was Darth Vader's daughter, so she formed the Resistance to fight the First Order. Leia eventually died while trying to reach her son in the Force, something that was never shown in Legends. The Star Wars Legends timeline emphasized that Luke Skywalker was not just the last of the old Jedi, he was the first of the new. Luke opened his own Jedi Academy on Yavin 4, beginning with 12 students, but increasing the order to at least 100 Jedi over the next 15 years. Luke also married Mara Jade and had a son, Ben Skywalker, whose descendants led the new Jedi Order long after Luke was gone. The Star Wars sequel trilogy took the exact opposite approach, having Luke's new Jedi Order destroyed by Ben Solo only 24 years after Return of the Jedi. Luke blamed himself and went into exile, vowing never to train more students and proclaiming that it was time for the Jedi to end. However, Luke eventually realized he was wrong and returned to save the Resistance, becoming one with the Force and giving hope to the galaxy one last time.